Welcome into Fantasy Filmball. My name's Dyl, and if you feel it, chase it, because today we're talking all about Twisters. I saw it at an early critic screening last night, so let's dive in. Daisy Edgar Jones stars as Kate Carter, a former storm chaser haunted by a devastating encounter with a tornado during her college years, who now studies storm patterns when he's screened safely away all the way in New York City. She is lured back to the open plains by her friend and longtime colleague Javi, played by Anthony Ramos, to test a groundbreaking new tracking system. There she crossed paths with Tyler Owens, who is played by the charming Glenn Powell. He is a reckless social media superstar who thrives on posting his storm-chasing adventures with his rambunctious crew. The more dangerous, the better. As storm season intensifies, these terrifying phenomenons never seen before are unleashed. As Kate, Tyler, and Javi, with their competing teams, find themselves squarely in the paths of multiple storm systems converging over central Oklahoma in the fight of their lives. As I said, I saw this at a critic screening yesterday, and the first thought I had leaving the theater is one I wasn't expecting going in, but I'm honestly a little let down with Twisters. This was one of my most anticipated films of all of 2024. I remember when the trailer came up during the Super Bowl, and it just looked so engaging, it looked so fun, it looked so gripping, so tense. It had this fear factor element to it, which I feel like the film overall was very much lacking. Some of that was a positive, some of that was a negative. So today I want to start off with my positives, because Twisters at the end of the day is a very good movie. It just did not meet my very, very, very high expectations. And the first highlight, which is the best highlight of Twisters, is of course Glenn Powell. He just has so much charisma, and he has this energy to him. He perfectly fits this country Midwestern swagger that he has to bring to this character, and you buy why so many people follow him and his Tornado Wranglers. They just are so cool. They fit the mood that you're really looking for inside of a film like this, and just elevate the energy up a whole nother level. And speaking about elevating this film, I think the ensemble cast does that very well. Being completely honest, this film's pretty mid, but when you add in this cast that's so likable, that is so infectious, it just elevates this film from a whatever type movie to a very enjoyable one. As I kind of mentioned before, the Tornado Wranglers have this positive, infectious energy that really just bodes well for a movie like this. It's kind of the vibe that you're getting from the trailers, which is honestly kind of not present at the beginning third of this film and the last third of this film. But the middle act is where it's hitting on all cylinders, because in addition to this ensemble cast, we've mentioned some of the people before, but Brandon Pereira, you may know him from Nope, is the true standout here. He is just so fun. He has this chaotic energy to him. There's this one time where they just chase a tornado and he does a full-ass backflip. I don't know, that was just really, really cool to me. And another aspect of Twisters that I think works really well are the set pieces. As this film goes on, they get bigger, bolder, more impressive. While we all know Lee Isaac Chung from Minari, which is a complete 180 from Twisters, I feel like a little bit of his directorial voice is lost throughout of this film, but I feel like he really has an eye for some action moments, because some of these scenes are very gripping. You're on the edge of your seat, you're biting your nails, you're wondering what is going to happen next, and I think that is due to his directorial vision. And as I mentioned before, Lee Isaac Chung, we know him from Minari, and Minari's big positive is the focus on characters. You grow to love all of the individuals that you meet in that movie, and he kind of brings that same energy over here to Twisters, which is kind of a positive and a negative. We get a lot more time with these characters, especially with Kate and Javi, but there's also an issue with this, and that's where we're going to kind of transition into my flaws, is we have so much time with these characters where they're setting up so many things for you to care about them, especially with Kate and Javi, because they have a very tragic opening to this film, but they don't really do much with it. At the end of this film, I don't feel like I care that much about them. The resolutions at the end of the day are very predictable, and you can kind of tell this movie's going from the opening moments. And I don't say this to be mean, this is no fault of Daisy Edgar Jones herself. I just feel like her character is pretty paper thin. There's not much to her. It's really hard to latch onto her type of character, and you find yourself, as I kind of mentioned before, connecting more and enjoying the moments with the Tornado Wranglers a lot more than you are with who is the supposed lead of this film. I've kind of alluded to this a few times already, but the cold open of this movie really, really, really put me on a sour note for the film. It has some very, very poor dialogue, cringe moments, and this last part may just be me, but my theater were giggling at times during this scene, because some of the death moments come off as comedic, which I know is definitely not the the implication and the interpretation of the filmmakers, but when you see people get sucked up VFX wise into this twister, it looks a little wonky, it looks a little funny at times, and that's definitely not the vibe they were going for. And this cold open, if it kept that same tone throughout the rest of the film, I was going to be in for a struggle with twisters overall. But luckily, as I mentioned before, the set pieces, the more this film goes on, the better that it gets, because it sets up this trauma for both Kate and Javi, because they do lose people very close to them. And I just feel like the film keeps building on that. They keep hinting at that throughout, but they don't really dive into it any deeper. We want to know, at least for me, I want to know why Kate is kind of resistant. Like, we can read it on paper, but it doesn't really go out of its way to like dive any deeper, other than she's responsible, as I mentioned in the trailer, for losing people close to her. But we have a giant time jump. Whenever this topic comes up, she kind of just walks away, the scenes end, and I feel there's a very interesting and intriguing avenue they could have gone on with Kate, with Javi, with their trauma, and how they bond or grow apart because of it. Instead, the film focuses more on Kate and Tyler's romance, which was there, but also wasn't really. This is the thing with Glenn Powell, where he's on screen, he's so charismatic. You are going to like him. The characters around him are going to love him, so you buy that aspect of it. But like, you don't feel like the hot stuff. You don't feel like they actually like each other. They're just enjoying each other's presence, when the film's trying to be like, no, these are two lovebirds, and they're going closer and closer until our ultimate conclusion of the movie. And I feel like they put them in scenarios, but it doesn't really do much with those scenarios. You get these moments where they go out on dates, or they're fighting for their lives because of the twisters, but like, it feels more like they're colleagues who really get along as like besties, more so than two people who have this strong connectional romance that this film is really trying very hard to push forward. There's just no real sparks there for me, which was a little bit sad when the film's committing this much time to that character arc. And another thing that makes me a little bit sad with twisters overall is I was really let down by the sound mix. I have to be honest, I did not see this in Dolby. I didn't see it in IMAX, so it's just a generic theater. But that's where the majority of people are going to be watching twisters at. And like, it was cool, it was fine, but a movie on Twister's level, you're expecting so much more. You're expecting the intensity, for your seat to shake, for you to feel like you're in the middle of these storms. And honestly, it just felt like I was watching the movie at home, where like there were certain elements that maybe were above average, nothing like I'm writing home about being like, oh my gosh, this is a surefire Oscar contender. And speaking of Oscars, I boldly said all the way back in March when we kicked off our Oscar predicting that I could see Twisters pulling a Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning type route, where it comes out, it's a summer box office hit sort of, where yeah, it has a big budget, doesn't make a bunch of money, no, but the industry really loves it, they want to support it, and we see it throughout award season, specifically at the Guild, performing very well, leading its way into 2 Oscar nominations, being sound and visual effects. However, after seeing it, I don't want to really get my biasness of the film in the way. I can still see it get those 2 nominations, but I'm not like clamoring for it. It's not going to be at the top of my predictions. It will be in like the 5 to 7 range in both of those categories, where I could see them being a shared package, kind of like The Creator last year, where like a lot of people weren't predicting it, but it made so much sense at the end of the day for that film to get both of those nominations. And here with Twisters, like, the visual effects are fine. There's moments, as I said before, they look kind of comedic. They definitely look fake at times, but I mean, like, you can't have real twisters out there. And the sound work is passable, but it's nothing extraordinary. So like, I really need to see how the guilds play out to see if I'm going to be buying Twisters for a Oscar nomination. But now for my rating of the film, I'm gonna give it a very light 7 out of 10, so that's a good on my scale. It's one where I could see myself enjoying it more on future rewatches, but I don't see myself wanting to rush out to the theater to watch it immediately again, like I did with other stuff this year, like Furiosa, where I was like positive on it, but I didn't love it the first time, but I still wanted to rush out to the theater to see it another time. But here with Twisters, I'm like, I get it. I liked it. It was cool. I didn't love it. It was a pretty big letdown for me because I was expecting this to be like a strong 9 out of 10 for me, but I liked it, and I think a lot of people out there will like it as well. It checks off a lot of boxes. It's funny at times. It does have you on the edge of your seat. There are very likable characters, as I mentioned before, the Tornado Wranglers and even Daisy Edgar-Jones and Anthony Ramos do their best with the characters they're given, just this script and this story don't really allow them to really showcase what these characters could be at the end of the day. But that's about all I had to say about Twisters. It's a film where I'm kind of let down because I don't have much to actually talk about. There's certain elements I like, there's certain elements I really didn't like, but I would love to hear what all of you out there think on Twisters. Definitely drop your thoughts on down below. Consider dropping a like if you made it this far, as well as a subscription, because Matt and I, we're gonna get together, we're gonna see Sing Sing, we're gonna review it here and talk about all of its Oscar chances very soon. But until next time, my name's Dyl, this is Fantasy Filmball, peace.